Welcome to the American Museum of Science and Energy's Family Science program on the cell. I'm Corky Witt, an educator at the museum, and we're going to be talking about plant and animal cells today. This 3D printed factory represents what our cells are doing. They're manufacturing something. They're using oxygen and glucose, and the product that they're making are proteins and giving off carbon dioxide. If you think about where you are today, whether you're in the classroom at school or at home, let's think of that as a cell. Your house, your classroom, the walls of that represent the cell wall or the cell membrane. And the doors going in and out represent the channel proteins through which big molecules like glucose or amino acids have to come in. Everything within, including you, are part of that cell. So there are lots of terms that scientists use to describe cells, but if we think about the comparisons to what they're actually doing, it'll be a lot easier. Inside the cell, there are lots of things. There are desks with chairs. This represents something within the cell called the Endoplasmic Reticulum. It's a big word. Let's shorten it to ER. The chairs where you're going to be sitting represent the ribosomes, and they are assembling these raw materials such as the amino acids into proteins. And so the workbenches are where things happen, where you study, where you build things. So after you build something, something has to be done with it. It has to be transported. And we have a cart over here. I'm going to step over here and grab this cart. This cart is going to pick up the product that you are manufacturing, and this is called the Golgi Apparatus, or the Golgi body. And what it does, it maybe stores that protein, or it sends it out into the bloodstream, such as a hormone, such as insulin or glucagon, has to be transported outside the cell. So it has to go to the door, the protein channel, and send it out into the bloodstream. Or, like I said, it could be stored within the cell. So this is a transport cart that represents the Golgi body. This trash can, once in a while, we all make mistakes, or we want to save the materials and not just throw it away. So this trash can is going to represent a recycling bin. So if there is a protein that's not quite right, it goes into the lysosome, enzymes, chemicals that break that material down for reuse. So this trash can is going to represent the lysosome. We've talked about the cell membrane. We've talked about the protein channels that allow things in and out. We talked about our workbenches, which is called, remember, the ER, or the big word, Endoplasmic Reticulum. You are sitting at a chair assembling the parts of the protein. You represent the ribosome. And the cart over here is going to be our transport vehicle called the Golgi Apparatus, either to store or to transport it out of the cell. And then finally, if you make a mistake, that's okay. We put it in the recycling bin called the lysosome. So those basic things are within the cell. We'll be looking at different representations, models of the plant and animal cell, and actually see how they're shaped within our models. We've talked about some of the parts within a cell. Let's take a look at an actual cell. We're going to make a slide of a plant cell, onion, and then we'll make a slide of an animal cell from actual cells in my cheek, inside my cheek. So I have an onion here, and I've cut a piece off, and one of the bracts, or one of the little sections, I've got it here, I'm going to just snap it, and the little hinge is actually one or two layers of onion. So I'm going to pull the thicker part off, and I'm going to take that thin piece of onion, I'm going to put it on the slide, and it's going to be, since it's hasn't had any sun to photosynthesize and turn green, it's going to be pretty colorless. So I'm going to take some blue dye and put a dot on there, and that coloring will stain the onion cells. Then I have a very small plastic cover called a cover slip, and I'm going to put it on the edge of the slide and then slowly lower it, because if I drop it on, it'll capture some air bubbles, and under the microscope an air bubble is a little confusing. You may think it's a cell. So we've made a cell, a plant cell preparation, and we're going to put it under our microscope. This is the stage on which the slide sits, and these little clips are the stage clips. We're going to look through the eyepiece, and I can actually see the onion cells. The nucleus, the center of the cell, where the information is stored, the genetic information, has been stained blue. It looks like a little brick wall. Let's take this off and move on to the animal cell. That was exciting to see the small cells in the onion. All right, this next one, we're going to be looking at animal cells. And as I mentioned, where are we going to get some animal cells? Well, if you take a toothpick, I've cut the sharp end off, and I'm going to rub it inside my cheek. Gently, we want to see cheek cells, not blood cells, so you have to be very careful of the toothpick. You have a lot of loosely packed cells called squamous cells inside your cheek. They're kind of like pancakes. That little bit of tissue I'm going to put on the slide, roll it around. It's hard to see. This has been in my mouth, so I'm going to throw it away. And they're going to be pretty clear, so I'm going to take some of our blue stain, put it on the slide, and then with my cover slip, I'm going to put it on the edge and then lower it down so we don't capture the air bubbles. So we've made a nice prep of the animal slide, put it under the microscope, and there are my cells, examples of animal cells. So if you want to do this at home, at the museum gift shop at amsc.org on our online store, we have a very affordable student microscope that I assembled today, and it comes with actual slides, cover slips, and you can make an onion prep, ask your mom and dad to help you, or with your cheek cells for your animal cells. So we've looked at the plant cell, the onion cells, and we've looked at the animal cells from my cheek. So we've seen actual cells. So when you think about cells from plants and animals, I'm going to give some examples of things that you may have at home to demonstrate this. These Lego blocks look kind of like a brick wall, similar to the way the onion cells looked. This Play-Doh is soft and squishy like an animal cell. Well, if you look at a plant, it really doesn't have a skeleton. It's like a brick wall. Wood is actually the very strong cell wall called cellulose. It's strong enough to stand by itself. Contrast that with animal cells. Animal cells just have a cell membrane. If you squish your skin, it's very soft. So we have to have an internal skeleton. Some animals have an exoskeleton like a crab or a lobster, but other animals have an internal skeleton like we do, with the soft, squishy animal cells being supported by that hard, bony skeleton. You can see all the tissue on this mannequin. So comparing the plant and animal cells, strong cell wall on the plant cells, just a cell membrane on the animal cells. Let's look at these very detailed models of the animal cell and the plant cell and look at some of the organelles, or the structures within the cell. As I said, the animal cell has the cell membrane, where the plant cell does have a cell membrane, but it's surrounded by the cell wall, which gives the plant cell the structure. One thing we haven't mentioned so far is the nucleus, the center, the sort of brain cell, the office of our classroom or the factory. At your classroom in school, the teacher's desk, I'm going to compare to the nucleus, because she probably has he or she has her computer, has all the lesson plans, knows what you're going to be doing. Just like the nucleus, it has these little blue squiggles called the DNA. Stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, which is a hereditary material that is unique to the cell. It tells the cell what organism it's going to be making, or what type of cell it's going to be making. So each of the animal cell and the plant cell have the nucleus, and the aqua part, that's going to be our ER, similar to our work table, and there are little white dots on each, and these are the ribosomes, and that's what you represented at the workbench. You're assembling the amino acids into the protein. So aqua, little white dots on both the animal cell and plant cell. All right, after you've made the product that you're making that day, let's say the protein, the pink part on each, the Golgi apparatus, That's the little cart that I moved around, picking up the product of the endoplasmic reticulum. So it's either storing it somewhere in the cell or exporting it. All right, what else do we have? Well, the orange structures on both are the powerhouses. Since you're in your classroom all day or at school or at home, you get hungry. And so the mitochondria produces energy for the cell. It converts glucose into energy that helps the cell function. So each of them have the mitochondria, and the yellow structures rather, are some of the storage capacity containers called vacuoles. And I mentioned the recycling bin. That would be, where is it? It was going to be right here, the gray one. I don't see it on the plant cell, but it has the recycling lysosomes. This structure right here is unique to animal cells. It's called a centriole, and it helps in cell division because a cell has to be able to divide for growth and repair. So just the animal cell has the centriole. Well, on the plant cell there's a large open area. This is called the central vacuole, unique to plant cells, and it's helping the plant have structure. It does have the cell wall, but the central vacuole, when it's full of water, it makes the lettuce crisp. When it loses its water, the cell wilts. So this helps with support for the plant cell as well. Also, there's some green structures that are unique to the plant cell. You can see them through the back here. Those are called chloroplasts. And as you know, plants use sunlight energy and carbon dioxide to make glucose, which is forming the food that we all eat. So the cell wall, the central vacuole, and the chloroplasts, which carry on photosynthesis, which produces the food that life depends on, are unique to plant cells. So we've compared the two, the nucleus, the ER, the endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi body, the mitochondria for each. So, plant and animal cells have the same structures and they function the same way. Interesting. What does that tell you about cells, whether they're animals or plants? They all function the same way. You can get a kid-size plush toy, animal cell, or the plant cell. We carry these at amsc.org at our online gift store, and they are, believe it or not, identical to the real thing. They have all the parts that this model has, and these have all the parts that the plant cell has. So these are available at our gift shop online. As I put all the labels on the plants, some of the terms you can see in print now, but I want you to realize that the similarities between the plant and animal cell, they have the same structures that function the same way. You too can make a Jello cell at home. If you take gelatin, I used unflavored gelatin, but you can use flavored gelatin, whatever flavor you want. Follow the directions on the box. Ask your parents to help you because you need boiling water to dissolve the gelatin. So ask them to help you mix the boiling water with the gelatin, dissolve it, and then add the additional water, put it in a bowl, and then add whatever you want to, whether I added fruit cocktail, added a few blueberries, whatever you want, because you're going to be able to eat this cell. What we've done, I made this solution, poured it into a bowl, put the fruit cocktail in here, let it refrigerate for 24 hours to get it solid. The gelatin made it that way. And now you are going to see our reveal. Let's see how we're going to do this. Oh my gosh, it worked. Whoa! How often do things in life work? This is our, look at this. What do you think this would represent? I'm going to say the chloroplast. These might be the mitochondria. Don't see the nucleus in here, but these blueberries, they could represent maybe the lysosomes, the recycling things. So we've made a cell. Bon appetit. Here are some activities you can do at home. If you have Play-Doh or any modeling dough, you can try to make a cell like I did with the white and the blue and the pink and the orange, kind of similar to our models. The nucleus, the ER with the little white, remember those? Ribosomes. The little pink is the Golgi body, and the orange, remember what those are? The mitochondria, the powerhouses. So this was my effort at modeling a clay structure. All right. We made these geodesic domes out of straws and pipe cleaners. That kind of simulates the three-dimensional structure, this geodesic dome, of a plant cell and an animal cell. So what we've done here with Legos, I made a chloroplast. Here is a mitochondria. Just had some fun with my Legos. And over here for the animal cell, here's the mitochondria for the animal cell. Here's the nucleus. And just play around and come up with your ideas for different structures for the different cells, the plant and animal cells. And then finally, an edible cell. This one, I took some different types of candy, and they represent, let's say, it's going to be the chloroplast for the plant cell. I'm going to put this mitochondria maybe. This, I'm going to break the stem off and use this large Tootsie Roll Pop as my nucleus. And these other little candies represent the other organelles, maybe a vacuole or a lysosome. And this Tootsie Roll is going to be something we didn't talk about, but the cytoskeleton, one of the parts within the cell that gives it form and structure. So this is my edible cell. And remember that the nucleus has the hereditary material, the DNA. So whether it's making it with modeling clay, using your Legos or other building blocks to make the organelles within the cell, or making a fun candy cell, you can have all sorts of ways of remembering all these structures that carry on the processes of life within our cells. So plant and animal cells, hope you've enjoyed our program today. I'm Corky Witt from the American Museum of Science and Energy, and this was our Family Science program on the cell.